Hi, welcome to the ESCI Search Query Training Modules. Here we are covering Module 1, where we will define terminology, cover the ESCI basics and tool, and highlight the importance of research. Before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to address the purpose of our work. Our core goal is to represent customer interests and improve the quality of search results. In order to achieve this, we interpret the meaning of search queries and judge results from the perspective of a reasonable customer. Let's start with some terminology that you need to be familiar with. First, we have search query. A search query is the input in Amazon search, meaning what the customer is looking for. This can also be referred to as keyword or just query. Category. The category represents the store the query has been searched under. This can also be referred to as alias or even store. We'll discuss this more shortly. ASIN. ASIN stands for Amazon Standard Identification Number, which is generally a 10-character unique product identifier. You can see it highlighted in the URL on your screen. The term ASIN can also be used more broadly to refer to a product. You may come across instances where a product is referred to as an ASIN, and it just means the offered product. Now, offered product is it's the offered product, or the product that needs to be judged for its relevancy to the search query. Finally, product description page, or PDP, the landing page of the product. Before we go any further, we need to define the judgment scale you'll be using. There are 5 judgments: exact, substitute, complement, irrelevant, and unjudgeable. Exact is used for products that fully satisfy the search query. Keep in mind that a broad or ambiguous query may be satisfied by a diverse set of products, and a very specific query will only be satisfied if the product matches all the characteristics included in the query. Substitute is used for products that differ from the one intended but are functionally equivalent. It's usually the same type of product, but may differ by brand, model, color, title, or some other detail. Complement is used for products that are not the one intended, but could be useful to the customer if they did buy the intended product. A product can be considered a complement when it shares a relationship with the desired product. This could be an accessory, a component, replacement part, or even another item designed to be used with the queried product. Irrelevant products do not satisfy a reasonable understanding of the customer's intent. An irrelevant product could be entirely unrelated, or it could differ by one crucial feature, making it unsuitable for the customer. And finally, unjudgeable. This judgment can be used in instances the product cannot be judged. There are several scenarios that we will cover in Module 3 where this is appropriate to use. So now let's cover some examples using the search query iPhone X. The exact product is the desired product, and it's the iPhone X. Do keep in mind that if additional features had been listed in the query, the offered product would need to satisfy those in order to be exact. So for example, if they had specified storage space, color, or some other detail, that would need to be addressed. Next, we have a substitute product, the Samsung Note 10. In this case, the product's purpose is the same. They're both smartphones, but it's not the desired brand. I'd also like to mention another substitute product would be any of the other iPhone models, even the iPhone XR or XS. These are very close in name, but we would assume the customer would add an extra letter if they were interested in those models, so we respect the query as written. Now we have an example of a complement product, which is protective glass for the screen. This is a direct accessory of the phone, so it's judged complement. Next, we have an irrelevant product, which is an iPhone 12 cover. This is a cover for a different model, so it's a complement of a substitute product, meaning it's judged irrelevant. It's not compatible with the queried product. And finally, unjudgeable. In this instance, the product description page has returned a page not found message. so unjudgeable is the appropriate selection. Now I'm going to give a brief overview of the SDAT tool, which is the tool used to run the evaluations. Each judging page contains a search query, which in this case is entrance bench. Below the query, you can see the alias or category, which is also shown in the link to the right of the query. Now, the links to the right are research links in case you are not familiar with the query. We'll discuss this more in a moment. The page also contains one or up to 32 or more products to be judged. The product titles are clickable and lead to the product description page. It is mandatory and an expectation of this program that the product description pages are reviewed. You cannot base your judgment on the impression of the title and image alone. Once you are confident in your judgment selections and have appropriately selected them for each listed product, you can submit your findings. Now, to accurately judge the relevancy of a product, we need to understand the query and the underlying customer intent. In many cases, this will be very clear, but if you're unfamiliar with the query or it is unclear, you may need to conduct some research. You can start this directly in SDAT by clicking any of the links to the right of the query. The first is a search within the category on Amazon. The second is a Google search for the query within Amazon. And the last is a Google search of the query itself. Category is an important consideration in your evaluation. If a category is present, it means the customer selected it before entering the query. The query and category together can give you a better understanding of the specific need of the customer. Finally, please be aware that the marketplace the query was issued in can be identified by the URL. In the example on your screen now, it's the Australian marketplace. It's also important to be aware that marketplace can have an impact on query interpretation. For example, a football in the UK is different than a football in the US. Overall, understanding customer intent is crucial for accurately judging products. As I just mentioned, the selected category can influence the intent of a query. I'd like to quickly cover how to approach a query based on category. Your approach should depend on whether the product type is included in the query. The product type is clearly mentioned in the query. If the product type is clearly mentioned and the category is APS or all product search, then we only consider the searched product as exact. For example, if the search query is basketball, then only basketballs are exact. A basketball is a product in its own right, and there is no indication by the category that the user is looking for something else. If a specific category is selected, then the query and the category need to be considered together, and it may change the intent of the user. So take the search query basketball again. But this time, the category selected is electronics. One can find phone covers, pen drives, etc. in the shape of a basketball. So in this case, those types of products will be marked exact and not basketballs. Now, when a product type is not mentioned directly by the query, meaning it's more vague or broad, and the category is APS, the query can be treated like a theme. For example, if the search query is Marvel and the category is APS, we can mark all Marvel-themed products as exact, such as t-shirts, books, DVDs, figurines. If a specific category is selected, we can treat that category as the desired product type. So take the same example again, but this time the selected category is toys. In that case, we will only mark Marvel-themed toys as exact. All other product types, like books and DVDs, will be irrelevant. Please note that in instances where the query is in conflict with the category and there is no reasonable interpretation for the query in that category, then it can be judged as if the category was APS or all product search. For example, if the query was orange juice and the selected category was electronics, you should just treat it as if the category was APS. As I briefly mentioned earlier, A holistic review of the product description page is necessary and required. Your judgment cannot be based on your impression of the product in the tool alone. Sometimes titles do not make it obvious that the desired product or features may be selected from the product description page. Also, be aware that retailer information is usually prioritized over customer comments, but it's also important to be aware that there are cases where retailer information is incorrect and customers provide clarification in the reviews. You may also need to research the product if you're unsure of its relevancy to the query. Information from the product description page can be a great starting point and may help you determine whether the product can fulfill the customer's needs. I'd like to highlight the steps we recommend when evaluating each individual product. Step 1 is to determine the user intent, and step 2 is to consider the category. These steps should be taken together, as the category can influence intent, and please be sure to conduct research when needed. Step 3 is to review the product description page. Remember, and I'll say it again, the relevancy of a product cannot be determined just based on impression. If you are uncertain a product matches the query, you can use Google search to research the features listed on the detail page. This can help you determine whether the product can fulfill the customer's needs. The fourth and final step is to select the judgment that best suits the product based on your research and the ESCI guidelines. Now that concludes Module 1. If applicable, please proceed with the Test Your Knowledge section for Module 1.